Somewhere in the territory of the Supreme Dojo, there was a large tree, and beneath the tree sat a man dressed in military clothing. In front of him was a table filled with bottles of alcohol. This man was none other than Dong Shengyi. As the leaves from the tree were falling to the ground, with an expression full of sadness and regret, he grabbed another bottle and prepared to take another drink to forget his troubles. Two boys who were strolling through the area appeared. One of them greeted Dong Shengyi with a wave and, with a kind smile, asked how he could drink so much, questioning if he was trying to reach greatness by consuming alcohol. He couldn't help but mock him since he had heard about this in novels and didn't expect someone to actually be doing it for real. The poor Dong Shengyi began to gaze at the table and fell silent. The boy's friend started observing, and it didn't take long for him to realize that something was not right. With a curious gaze, the boy mocked Dong Shengyi again, saying that their martial school was full of talents. The friend's eyes filled with fear, causing him to start sweating and panicking. He quickly covered the boy's mouth and with an angry gaze asked what he was doing and if by any chance he didn't know who he was. The boy's expression changed, and he became serious, his attention fixed on Dong Shengyi, and his eyes widened with curiosity. It didn't take long for him to realize that he was the elder brother of the Dong family. The friend began to sweat even more, and with a nervous gaze revealed that his martial path had been interrupted. And after that, he had sunk into decadence. Poor Dong Shengyi did not say a single word. His gaze was filled with sadness and regret. He began observing the green leaves blowing in the wind. He was someone known as a great level 8 master who was barely 40 years old. The boy asked who could have been capable of defeating such a powerful person. The friend's eyes filled with seriousness. He began staring intently at Dong Shengyi, revealing that it was said to have been another young supreme genius of martial arts. He wasn't very sure about the details but asked his friend to remember one thing: in this world, there were too many prodigies. There would always be someone stronger than oneself, so they must always maintain a humble and respectful attitude. The boy turned to his friend and couldn't help but feel somewhat confused. But even so, he decided not to forget his friend's advice. Dong Shengyi took another sip from the bottle of alcohol, and while he was venting his sorrows, a woman began walking toward him from behind. Catching his attention, he grabbed the bottle again, put it in his mouth, closed his eyes, and started drinking again, asking if she had come to make fun of him once more. The woman was none other than Lu Wan. She placed her hands on her abdomen and fixed her gaze on Dong Shengyi. Her eyes were full of concern. She approached him, placed her hand near her mouth, and with a serious expression whispered, asking him to please listen to what she had to say. She began telling him something, awakening his curiosity. After hearing what she had just mentioned, Dong Shengyi's eyes widened in surprise. He stood up, turned around, and with a curious expression asked if what she had just said was true. In response, Lu Wan clenched her fists and replied that she had heard her mother say it with her own ears and had even seen it with her own eyes during the broadcast. Upon knowing it was true, Dong Shengyi clenched his fist and began gazing at the ground with a lost look on his face, causing the bottle of alcohol to fall to the floor and shatter into pieces. His eyes began to shine with rage. He couldn't believe that even the martial saint of the Supreme Dojo had been beaten by Lu Sheng until he was half dead. Consumed by rage, he struck the tree forcefully, realizing that compared to a monster like Lu Sheng, he was nobody. His blow was so powerful that more leaves began to fall from the tree onto the ground, his eyes filled with determination and vengeance. He didn't want Lu Sheng to die, so he decided to help search for him. Lu Wan, who was standing behind him, placed her hand over her chest and couldn't help but be somewhat surprised since she hadn't expected this reaction from him. At last, Dong Shengyi came out of his depression arc and began walking toward the exit, determined to find Lu Sheng. Seeing this, Lu Wan's eyes widened with joy, bringing a smile to her face. She was happy to see that he had finally regained his spirit. In the Ninghai military headquarters, there was a large screen with a radar while two men were controlling the waves. The man holding the tablet revealed that the search range for Lu Sheng's body had been expanded to about 100 kilometers around the surrounding waters, and the depth had also reached the maximum limit of the radar, which was about 8,000 meters. Upon hearing this, the marshal of the central district couldn't help but get angry. With an enraged gaze, he gave him orders to further expand and deepen their search range. They must keep looking. The man who was holding the tablet turned around and with a nervous expression explained that they had entered an underground cave, and going further and could be dangerous. The marshal of the central district began to observe the man in silence, thinking about what to do next. His eyes filled with seriousness and determination. He He started staring intently at the man and asked if he believed it was harder for the army to train a powerful warrior strong enough to defeat a martial saint, or if it was more difficult to explore the underground caves in the depths of the ocean. The man closed his eyes and lowered his head before him, indicating that he understood what they needed to do. The Marshal of the East was aboard the military ship. He rested his hands on the railing and began to observe the sea. He knew that Lu Sheng was the hope that the army had longed for over 200 years. He was determined not to let that hope be extinguished like this. As the sun illuminated the sea, the Marshal of the East gave his men orders to keep searching until they found Lu Sheng. In the depths of an underground cave, 30,000 meters down, there were fish swimming calmly, and among them was a marine beast shaped like a lanternfish with 3 eyes and sharp teeth. The beast was prowling around in search of food. After swimming for a while, the beast began to feel a strange golden energy coming from a cave. It was somewhat confused as it did not know what was happening. At that moment, the beast's eyes filled with fear. It began to feel a terror it had never felt before, realizing that something bad was going to happen. Just before the beast had time to react, a powerful golden ray pierced its mouth, causing it to open its mouth and start roaring in pain. The strange creature of the abyss was instantly caught and dragged into the depths. In the blink of an eye, something devoured the beast, leaving only its bones. Somewhere in the depths of the ocean, a golden light began to shine intensely, causing tentacles to appear. This energy came from a strange being in human form that had sharp claws, 3 eyes on its abdomen, and powerful tentacles emerging from its body. His body was surrounded by a powerful energy, and his eye was glowing intensely. It was none other than Lu Sheng. His body seemed to have fused with that of sea beasts. With a calm gaze, he realized that he had taken the path of Cthulhu. His attention was fixed on his body, which had a somewhat strange appearance. He began to observe the eye he had on his stomach and remembered that before dying, he had drunk the poison called the Saint's Cry, and despite the fact that the powerful energy had saved his life, it had also transformed his body. Now he had this strange appearance with half of his body being human and half monster. He sat down, placed his hands on top of his knees, closed his eyes, and began to meditate, making blue energy appear around his body. His body was almost completely disfigured, and despite having internal and external problems with it, looking at it from a positive side, he had managed to survive. Our boy was happy since he hadn't died after being attacked by a level 10 attack, thinking that he was incredible. Lu Sheng's eyes filled with rage, causing him to clench his teeth tightly due to the fury. He could not believe that in this world there truly existed traces of a powerful level 10 warrior. It was strange since nothing about it was mentioned in the registration system. He did not know if that warrior belonged to this world or perhaps was from another era and another dimension. He remembered that before the first year of the martial era, it had been a purely technological age, and there had never been any record or document related to ancient civilizations dedicated to martial arts. Otherwise, the era would not even have been called the first year of the martial era. He began imagining powerful beings controlling the world. He knew that this level 10 warrior might be from another planet or must be another powerful practitioner from some advanced civilization in martial arts. While our boy was meditating, the tentacles that were emerging from his body began to float, and several strange fish were swimming in the area. For Lu Sheng, this possibility was the greatest since it was very unusual. From the appearance of exotic beasts to the rise of martial arts, about 300 years had passed. The tentacles moved quickly, capturing 2 fish without even giving them time to react. Zhao Jai had become a martial saint of martial arts 100 years ago. From the initial level of 1st level warrior to the emergence of 9th level warriors, only a period of 100 years had elapsed. When Lu Sheng had read about this in school books, it hadn't seemed like much at all. But now that he thought about it calmly, he realized that this process, from nothing to something, was too fast. He began imagining an army of men in the city. Even now, all routes from level 1 to level 9 had already been marked out by predecessors, and although the army would employ all its resources trying for a new level warrior to be born, they wouldn't achieve it even in 100 years, much less during those early days on the martial path when everything was arduous and difficult and progress groped forward through darkness. Lu Sheng didn't know what merits or abilities Zhao Jai possessed to reach level 9 within a century since martial arts began. Lu Sheng began to imagine a human touching the hand of a strange being. If someone from a more advanced martial civilization had helped Zhao Jia open the path of martial arts, Then everything made sense. Having someone to teach versus not having one made an abysmal difference. Lu Sheng's eyes widened with seriousness and confusion. He did not understand why a being from an advanced martial arts civilization was helping inferior civilizations open the path of martial arts. The tentacle that had captured the fish devoured them in an instant, leaving only bones, causing golden energy to appear around Lu Sheng's body. He stood up, and his attention fixed on it, making his eyes fill with surprise. He finally realized that the invasion of exotic beasts was just the beginning of everything. He began to remember when the portals had appeared in the world, letting exotic beasts enter. Then he started imagining humans bowing before a powerful woman from another dimension. When a weak technological civilization was on the brink of extinction, an advanced civilization skilled in martial arts had appeared. They had granted swords and power to the weak, allowing human civilization to have the strength to defend itself and fight against the powerful creatures from the other world. Lu Sheng closed his eyes and focused. He knew that this process was very fluid, as if everything were following a reasonable plan step by step. For now, all of this made sense to him. He began imagining another world with strange creatures flying through the sky. The battlefield of the exotic beast invasion was much larger than he had imagined, questioning whether Earth as it is now might just be a small sub-battlefield. The bones of the beasts that Lu Sheng had been devouring began to sink to the bottom of the sea. He realized that the disasters and beasts he had seen and touched so far were only an insignificant tip of the iceberg compared to everything that was still hidden. 2 sea beasts that were wandering in the area were captured by Lu Sheng's tentacles. The tentacles seemed to have become stronger. Little by little, they began devouring the beasts, transporting their nutrients into Lu Sheng's body. With a serious gaze, he started thinking silently. He should thank his mutant body for constantly hunting beasts and providing him with inexhaustible energy. The tentacles began mutating again and re-entered our boy's body. Lu Sheng stood up, his attention fixed on the tentacles. The energy was gradually consuming his residual strength located in his chest, and although this strength was very powerful, it would eventually disappear. He noticed that because he was deep inside an underground cave, the power of rules was very weak, which was causing the mutated cells not to die. Lu Sheng sat back down on the ground and began to meditate. One of his tentacles stuck to a starfish and started consuming its energy. The mutant cells had an excessively strong biological instinct. Even if he didn't control them, their innate destructive instinct would drive them to automatically hunt all the surrounding creatures. Our boy closed his eyes and focused. He decided to take this moment to recover automatically and take advantage of it by entering the dream space and training a bit. This is the end of the video. If you guys want to see the next part, then don't forget to subscribe and like the video.